Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast where we don't just skim the surface, we interrogate the moments. Today's episode is not casual listening. This is a real thinking episode, I'd like to call it. We are living in an era where identity is debated, politicized, commodified, certainly, in my opinion, misunderstood. And yet, rarely we examine with intellectual honesty. Now, my guest today did not just write a comfortable book. He wrote a necessary one. It's called At the Millennium, Paradise Crossed. It's not just a novel, it's a modern mythology, an allegorical reckoning with who we are and who we exclude and who we fear becoming. Oh man, I felt that deep. This work has already been recognized by Midwest Book Review, praised as original, eloquent, iconistic, and intellectually engaging from start to finish, and recommended for academic and university level literary study. Now, today, we're going to talk about identity, power, oppression, mythology, and why stories still matter, especially now. Now let's get in today. My guest is Awdry Winks. He is the author and residing in rural Connecticut in a historic Georgian manse that feels appropriately timeless for the kind of work he creates. Born in New York City with early years spent abroad, educated at Yale, and shaped by a career in international finance, he brings a truly globalist lens to American storytelling. His novel, At the Millennium, Paradise Crossed, published in 2024, explores creation, innovation, identity, and moral struggle through allegory characters, navigating a society wrestling with race, immigration, gender, sexuality, capitalism, and power. This is literature with teeth. Yes, because it's going to bite. My dear friend, my new friend and brother, Awdry, welcome to Mindset Mastery. I hold with me your beautiful masterpiece. But just for a moment, tell us who you are, where you've been, and why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Wow, Dr. Whyte, thank you so much for that introduction. It's going to be hard to live up to it, but I'll give it a try. My name is Awdry Winks. My friends call me Awdry. I'm an author chronicling the current scene for the last 50 years. I wrote a novel, At the Millennium, Paradise Crossed, published in 2024, about coming to the new world over succeeding time periods and under varying conditions as an exploration of identity, presenting extreme characters struggling in a critical culture, coming to terms with their true identities despite conflicts within and between themselves, and triumphing jointly in an extreme act of will. Just to mention some of the themes that I know you touch on in your podcasts in terms of entrepreneurship, as writing is an inward-looking activity. The promotion of a book is not an easy task for an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Though the profit motive per se, I want as many people as possible to read my novel. I am an entrepreneur in that I control my own destiny. I am responsible for quality control and the outcome. I want to create works of art that bring long-lasting value to readers and contribute to some sort of cultural history. I value my readers for taking time to share my thoughts with them. And I've heard you say that about your listeners too, Doctor, that you value them, that they listen to you.
Yes.
And I look forward to continuing to produce innovative, compelling, and challenging stories. My book is an ambitious book, maybe an idea book, certainly an anti-establishment point of view. I attempt to tell several stories at once. There's a central narrative interwoven with the origin stories of all the characters. And these origin stories allude to the original origin story of the book of Genesis, the creation of the world and Adam and Eve. Each character's actions proceed from individual, historical, and generational destinies. Somehow, from selfish motives, the characters ultimately combine to deliver a strong act of social protest and rebellion in the anarcho-pacifist tradition, which is with a pen rather than a gun. And just finally, I think I serve mankind by writing stories that push readers to confront, to think beyond themselves in the current reality, challenging societal concepts of accepted identity amidst injustice brought down to us since the creation. I'm a chronicler of our inner souls and outer manifestations, of our good, bad, and ugly selves from an anarchist point of view. God is laying on me to keep describing the living characters of excess and despair that I see in the modern world before we all become true shadows of the past.
I just love it. And I have to show our viewers, because our listeners won't be able to see it. This is the book. Mr. Winks ensured that I had a copy. Look at the cover art. And there you see the very beginning where it all started, Adam and Eve, and you see the apple tree, the proverbial apple tree, I call it. And this masterpiece is a hardcover novel. Very, very well done. And so as an author myself, Awdry, I know what it is to put body, mind, and soul. I've been writing 2 books the last year. I'm looking forward to getting one of them out in Q1 2026. First of all, just congratulations. I would say, if you have an open mind and you're questioning things, this book, and I say things, life, and depends on where you are, it will hit you differently. But I really think you should venture off as you listen to this episode and getting a copy. And my guests don't tell me to promote their stuff. Okay, my luck is that I've gotten it autographed by Tawdry as well. So I'm very
Thank you so
excited about
much.
that. But this
That's great.
conversation, again, I'm very, as you all know on the show, and Tawdry, I can share, I don't accept every guest. That I don't just have just anybody on the show. Number one, it's a lot of time to have conversations. So I want to have conversations that I'm curious about and that brings value. And then I believe my listeners might want to listen to, or maybe they won't, but at least I'm having a good time and I'm learning. So when I was able to come up on your work, it was my honor really to have you on the podcast to talk about some of the things you address and you share in the book. So let's start with intent. You didn't just choose realism. You chose allegory. You didn't choose safety. You chose complexity. Why this story and why now?
Well, first of all, I'd like to make a plug for the cover of my book.
Yes,
And then
sure.
come back to your question if you'll remind me again. Just my wife did the artwork. Mrs.
Wow.
Mrs. T. Awdry Winks. Mrs. Awdry Winks did it.
Yes.
And so that's
And I see
that.
some art
She helped me do
behind
that.
you as well. Well, awesome. Well, she did an
That's hers too,
amazing job.
right? These are her paintings behind me too.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah, so I'm
wow.
very lucky to have an in-house production team.
Wow. Well, she did an amazing job. I love this. I guess I know
That's
who to
great.
reach out to because I have an author as well. I have a few authors in my world. My nephew's writing a book and he's very creative. He wouldn't just like a designed cover. He would like it to be a piece of art himself because that's just how his mind works.
Right. Well, that's
Yeah.
nice. That's really nice to distinguish that. I appreciate that. And so back to your question, really, why now? It's not just now. My book is about this cusp of millennia that we're having in the year 2001. Well, that was, between the third. So now we're in the third century from the second. I mean, third millennium coming from the second. So that was
Yeah.
a big sort of allegorical in a way, and representational of just the largeness of what the shifts that are occurring in our society. It's not meant to be astrological, although of course, there's astrological associations with these temporal changes that we have. In this case,
Yes.
1,000 years. So I picked 1,000 years because that's notable. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so what's happening now has been happening. So the book was really 50 years, 25 years before, 25 years after the change of millennium. And then, so it's a whole time period that we're having of readjustments, really from World War II, from things that the society has changed so much in the last 50 years. And so this idea that I had that of the combination of coming to America, everyone comes to America in their own way, and how you come is really important, and when you came. But everybody's come from somewhere else. And And so and I combine that with an idea of transgenderism because transgenderism now has become in the last 50 years also like an extreme identity. Like it's a statement of identity in its essence, and maybe one of the most extreme statements of identity that you could think of to change your gender, and then
Gender.
if you go all the way, your sex. And
Mm-hmm.
so that represents to me the extremes of the society that we've had Hitler, we had Stalin, we've had all these atrocities in the world and extreme behavior by everyone. So my
Mm-hmm.
characters are extreme in the sense that they all represent good, bad, and they're all both good and bad because we're all both good. We have
That's it.
both
We
sides
all
to
have
us.
side.
So
Yes, the
so that's
polarity.
and but really, why now is because it took me 10 years to finish it, and so now I finally finished it. So that's why now, basically, yeah.
That's now. And the timing is always right. I think God, the universe, whatever you read, source, intelligence, higher intelligence, has timing set up for whatever it is we're going to do. So let's dive in a little bit into it. Because again, we can't go through all of it in our time, but we're going to do our very best. You're essentially building a modern Eden in the book, but one that's fractured by capitalism, power, and as you said, identity politics. Was this book born more out of observation, or did you write it more out of concern?
Wow. Well, both, because the way capitalism has really affected, the development of everyone
Mm.
is extreme. So I studied history at school and, literature and philosophy. Those were my favorite subjects. And there was you had a podcast the other day of a gentleman, or a while ago, the ultimate
The
woke
woke
warrior.
prophet. Yeah, the woke prophet. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it's this terminology of woke has gotten, it's just it's so silly. So when you study history, you just can't help but be woke, because when you study history,
Exactly.
history is just a study of the follies of mankind, really, and it's so full of atrocities and horrible things. And so if you can't, so if you turn, so that's why journalists are leftists, or pretty much anybody who's going to be a journalist, first of all, is going to investigate both sides. And the way
Exactly.
it's
Just by nature.
it's the way it's termed now, that they're both sides have their own investigative stuff, but traditionally journalism was always anti-establishment, and journalists were equal, as I grew up, in investigating Republicans and Democrats my whole
Exactly.
life. So, but
Exactly.
now it's become really politicized. But anyway, I just, your question about, was about now, why now? And so yeah, the capitalism now has gotten really extreme, and
Mm-hmm.
my book is an allegory. I set Eden as the perfect place is Eden, paradise, and I set it in Los Angeles because Los Angeles is the ultimate sort of allegory of newness and things that are like the cutting edge.
Yeah.
It represents in the United States, sort of. I mean, I'm from the East Coast, so you could
Right.
argue whether
I
New
am
York
from the
is or
East
not.
Coast as well. Yeah.
Right. But I put LA's just because of maybe it's the weather or something. LA really, I set that as like a modern day Eden where these characters go about their business, and there's an Adam character and there's an Eve character, and it's set in 1985 to the present, to 10 years
Right.
ago.
So count those 50 years. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's a critique of society, because it's I think society has to be critiqued, and the people have to be held accountable for their actions. So
Oh, I
yeah.
love that. Accountability is necessary. I said there's always a day of reckoning, whether we believe one will come or not. There will always be a day of
Right,
reckoning.
right,
And accountability helps to prepare for the day of reckoning. And when I say reckoning, in my mind, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have a bad outcome when it's reckoned, but you determine that based on how you
right.
show up during the period of accountability, right? So one of the most striking
One of my
aspects,
statements in my book, one of my statements in my book is there's no justice in life. There's just no justice, and maybe accountability. Maybe there's accountability, but there's certainly not justice. We don't have that as a and the Bible, Jesus Christ, he identified that immediately, that there's no justice, and we have to suffer through all the torments of the society, really, of being pushed around.
Exactly. And that's one thing that for me and my own values, my own personal values and my own personal beliefs, and some say it's because I was born under the sign of a Libra, but just as a person, one of my values is justice. And I tend to say equity more than I say equality. And one of the harshest things that I've faced is coming to where I understand what you just said. There's really no justice. And so what I determined for the rest of my life once I came to grips with that is that while I will pursue bringing equity in spaces and places at all times, it would be best if I encourage or be a part of facilitating that anyone I come into contact come into full awareness of themselves at the point that they're at, because full awareness of yourself will change as you grow day to day. So if you stay in full awareness and acceptance and love for yourself, and then by that mean create the best experience you have while you're here with everything you're given and even things that are taken, that might be my best route to empower people to do. Because when I think about my pursuit of justice, it would just become an obsession that it's almost like digging a hole and thinking that there wouldn't be a hole. That's just my thought on that. So
okay, so this is one of the a poem that I have that's the prologue of the book. I'm scribbling these lines as they haven't been uttered before. It's only me right now, no one pushing to make it longer, shorter, simpler, start here, end there. I'll say exactly what I want and take just as long as needed. First, there is no justice or accountability, only acquiescence, and perhaps the hollow drumbeat of vengeance. Life is simply one day after another, trying to get by. The virtuous seldom rewarded, the sinful managing acclaim. Everything deftly rigged. It's the way it's always been. We're far too busy to pay too much attention to or get involved in pesky troubles that really don't concern us in the long term, and then on and on. But yeah, that's one of the themes of my book is the unfairness of it. Life.
Yes.
And so that's why we have these problems that we have now. This, I don't consider it a problem, but the issue of immigration and so the unfairness of the world and the historical movements, and they can deny whatever they want, but if you study history, I mean, the immigration we're having now and in Europe, from North Africa, from South America, from Asia, this is just really the result of the last 200 years of colonialism that we're just unwinding. That's why I said in the beginning of my talk, so much of our life is unwinding from World War II and even the Ukraine problem, of course. That's
we're still
further
unpacking
unwinding.
it.
Yeah, we're still unpacking a lot of that stuff. So so the immigration. So my book deals with current issues a lot, and it's the way the current issues are expressed are through the characters that have ideas and they had discussions about it. So immigration is a big deal. The transgender choice that's more widespread now, and I see it again as an ultimate act of freedom of expression. The gun rights debate. This is all happening in the last 50 years. All these things. The gun rights debate is intensifying. The race dilemma is never settled. The evil effects of slavery and colonialism. Justice and injustice, again, we mentioned this. The fact that Gitmo still exists. Oh my God.
Right?
I mean, here we are.
Right?
And now a whole new level of prisoners are being sent to Gitmo.
Yes.
Which, by the way, that's the United States really has suffered now because, so now it's okay to treat foreigners different than your own people. Foreigners are really second-class citizens in the United States. First of all, they're not citizens, of course. But the treatment of them has really declined because, for instance, my mother had a green card. So I know what the rules of green card is. You're a guest of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State can kick you out of the United States anytime he wants to when you have a green card. They never did, though. This was something that was never exercised. My entire mother's life, she had a green card till she died because she didn't want to be a citizen.
Citizen, right? So it was a choice,
Nowadays, this issue of the green card and the citizenship, it's just a mockery that we're arguing about this sort of stuff. It's just, we've gone beyond all these things that the concerns of our government right now in terms of that. So that's basically Gitmo got me going on that. And then other themes of my book are that philanthropy is being abused by bad guys to rehabilitate themselves. Those are sort of the things that I deal with in my
Oh,
book, all these
yeah.
issues that are happening right now in our country. And then the characters act out. They act out all this stuff. That's basically
Yes, I want to read an excerpt from your prologue where you quote Plato, and it says, this is Plato 370 BC, the divine intelligence being nurtured upon mind and pure knowledge, and the intelligence of every soul which is capable of receiving the food proper to it, rejoices at beholding reality and once more gazing upon truth, is replenished and made glad until the revolution of the worlds brings her round again to the same place. In the revolution, she holds justice and temperance and knowledge absolute, not in the form of generation of relation, which men call existence, but knowledge absolute in existence absolute, and beholding the author true existence in like manner, and feasting upon them, she passes down into the interior of the heavens and returns home. Why was sewing? You introduced the concept here of no justice, but you use this phrase. Why was it important for you to cite Plato's writing here?
because in that part, I wanted it to draw attention more to the idea of the perfect forms. I mean, the Platonic forms were defined as the pure ideas, and so that passage shows the soul being prepared by gazing on all these forms of perfection, of justice and beauty, and fidelity, and all these
Success.
things that were
Yeah.
held up. And then before the soul comes back down to the new body. So that's why it says, oh, it comes home again. The soul
Comes
comes
home
back
again.
down to
Yeah.
earth to a new home. And then, that relates to transgenderism, because there's an argument: is transgenderism or sexuality, is it engendered? Is it inherited? Is it culture, or is it nature or nurture? These are all
Right.
the arguments
That we have.
that you can have also on that. So,
Yes.
but yeah,
And so recently, I
and
think just
that's
this week. Yeah.
just to finish on Plato. I'm sorry
Go ahead.
that it's that the perfection of the ideas, and that don't exist, because you can't even approach the perfection of justice. So we're so far behind on that it doesn't exist. And then also the idea that the perfection of like all this cosmetic surgery that we have nowadays, and it's almost like people want to become a form of beauty themselves, that they pay for the doctor to make them the ideal beauty, which everyone has their different idea of it, because it's a personal thing, but it's the ideal of it. But you can't ever reach it. You can't ever reach perfection. So that's because part of the book deals with cosmetic surgery and how that might relate to transgender changes of the body and the perfection that is sought after in that whole situation.
Exactly. Wow. So that was one of the most striking things in the novel was your use of the trans characters, not as side commentary, but as a central symbolic force. I found that interesting.
They're the main.
Let-
They're the main character. They're the two main characters.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you said that what was the basis for that, for using the allegory that way? Why did you think it was so important to use them as the main character?
Because again, I think that transgenderism represents the ultimate science, the ultimate, like a Platonic form of the perfection of science, and that you can do anything you want now, and I see that as the society reaching its peak of like freedom, and of course then the reactions against it in the society, against transgenderism, which we're seeing now in this administration, kind of thing. Because it was, since the beginning, transgenderism has been more an idea of perfection of your own sexuality, and then in the last 10 years it's become politicized with bathroom issue and all this nonsense,
Everything, yeah.
swimming, or whether this. I think those are nonsensical issues, but of course it is an issue if you're a parent, and your kid's competing against a biological male. But somehow the society has to choose between a person's expression, which it did for a while, and now it's coming back to maybe People can't just
Identity.
express themselves as they want. That's
Right,
all.
right. So would you
Yeah.
say that trans in your work functions less as a political identity and more as a philosophical expression of becoming?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't really deal with political. It's the book is not.
not political at all.
I
Yeah,
must mention Democrats and Republicans one time in the entire book because it's. Do I mention conservative thought? Yes. Do I mention liberal
your
thought? Yes.
thoughts, yes.
Do I acknowledge extreme liberal thought and extreme,
Conservative thought,
conservative
yeah.
thought? Yeah, but more from a philosophical and sociological basis
Yes,
than politics, because the novel's not about politics. It's about people. It's about
it's
how
about
they
people.
interact.
Yeah. Now, is
Yeah.
trans in your view, as you said it's the ultimate expression of identity, or do you think it's a mirror exposing how fragile identity truly is for us as a society these days? Is it just bearing on what we want? We have our own vision of what should be, but this whole concept of trans, it's like I know people use the word trans now for all kinds of things. Like someone says they're trans financial. They're somewhere between being rich and being poor. I mean, they use it for all kinds of things now. So what are your thoughts on that as far as is it something that's exposing our fragility and our own identity?
No, I think it strengthened it, but
Mm.
because when ideally everyone should just accept everybody doing whatever they want, and ideally, and if you feel discomfort at whatever someone else is doing, then you should just actually go somewhere else, because whatever the people are doing, it's no one's right to tell anybody how to
What to
act or what
be.
to do.
Yeah.
So I do think that I really think that the trans
Mm.
issue, as uncomfortable as it makes people, us,
Mm.
yeah,
All of us. There are
it's a
parts
very
that gets
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable.
weird situation, which could be like in a social situation, and it started to happen like 10, 15 years ago. You could go to a party and be introduced to someone who used to be a different gender, and you just had to be cool about it, and just be cool about it. So, um, but that's the way it should be, I think. People, has so many parts to them. We have so many
Mhm.
parts. I don't know.
Mhm.
There's feminine parts in everybody and masculine parts. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is your book does
People
not.
I'm sorry, the last thing is on trans is people are really afraid of it. So I brought it out to the open. And I brought it out to the open in a way that it's like in the beginning, it's really weird. In the beginning, it's these two characters there, and they happen to be immigrants. So they're immigrants and they want to be trans. So they want to go to LA as Eden.
Yes, I
They're
remember.
Eden to get the sex change operation. So they each go there, and they each, and they, in the beginning, it's their adventures to get there, which, they do a lot of bad stuff to get here, because anybody who's, I'm sad to say, but it's the criminology of illegal entry is really bad. But so they come, and then they meet in a doctor's office where they're getting their sex change operations. And then, you know, Adam and Eve, the original, then they change genders. So, the male becomes the female Eve, and the but so in the beginning, it's presented as something unique, wild, strange, or whatever. And then by the middle of the book, it's just two characters who are acting outrageously. They just happen to be trans. They're doing the same crazy stuff that the other characters are doing. And by the end of the book, it doesn't even matter that they're trans. They're just two new people expressing how they live now, which happens to, and it's not even an issue in the end, kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that's part of why I did that too. That the society is making it. It's really a non-issue, right? It's turning into a
Mhm.
non-issue. You know.
Mm.
So that's sort of how the book mirrored that. But yeah, it was important to have a trans character, that because it does mirror stuff from our society. That whether, I don't know, I just said whether it's the worst part of the society or the best part, but I think it's the best part, because people can, express themselves how they want. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I grew up in the
Yeah.
'60s, right? So it's like, yeah, express yourself kind of thing.
It's
So yeah,
right.
maybe,
That was the
you
era
know,
when the self-expression became actually a thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah. So your book does not shy away from oppression, racial, immigrant, sexual, gender-based. It doesn't offer easy
No,
villains. Why
no, because
was it
everyone's a racist.
important?
Because everyone's a racist at heart. I hate to say it, and like every character who suffers and is abused then turns to become an abuser, and himself, because that's the nature of human beings, that people who are a lot of times abused and maltreated, then they go on to maltreat other people.
Hurt people, hurt people.
And in
That's where
psychology,
confronts came
it's
from.
shown, if you beat your kid and you pound your kid, the kid's going to go out and beat other people and pound other people. So it's just going to content. So yeah, those are.
Right. Why was it important for you to confront both justice and injustice in the same narrative space? I mean, it was pretty interesting that you did that.
Aren't they both two sides of the same coin? Because yeah, the oppression. So again, people who are oppressed go on to oppress others. That's the way. And what I show in that each character has their downfall. Each character has a weakness or to make them human, and they all do bad stuff and good stuff. And in the end, something happens where they join together and do something that's like an act of. So
Yeah.
the book is really anti-gun. I'm really anti-gun. It starts off with there's like a poem I write where Henry Hudson brought his men there and they were just shooting Indians to just practice musketry. They did. And so it's really anti-gun because back to your capitalism, guns were created when capitalism was created. So you had three things going on. You had capitalism, you had armaments, capitalism, banking, and actually the media started with the printing press, like 1460. So like all these things are happening in that time. And the guns have become like the really bad thing in this country. And so my parents were immigrants, and I guess I'm an immigrant myself. I hardly lived here till I was like 5 years old.
That's what
And
I
then,
read.
but you don't have guns in other countries. You just don't.
Not
It's like
like
really,
that. Yeah, not
it's
as
like really
common.
low class kind of thing. It's a bad thing we have in this country that people think they have to have a gun. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I get it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Right.
know how to shoot guns because when I was a kid, I went to this camp and I'm like a crack shot on a 22, and I've shot shotguns and I've shot a lot of bottles with shot out in the woods. Oh yeah, but I know that I don't want to have a gun around me because a lot of accidents happen. And suicides. Half of suicides I think happen with a gun. But so the book is really anti-gun because because the book is like a history. It's like
It is.
it examines things in our history that have become problems now. So the guns uh, and when did the guns come? Because they thought it was okay to just shoot anything.
Right.
Because originally in Europe, you couldn't have a gun unless you were a lord on your land. And so all the people who came to this country, they had this idea that they were going to be lords themselves and have their own gun. Just like they brought the Bible and they decided they could decide because they were Protestants, and part of it was like, we're going to decide what the Bible says now. We're not going to listen to priests. The other thing is we're going to have guns because in Europe we couldn't have guns, but here I'm going to have a gun in the United States and I'm going to walk my land with my gun, just like the
Yeah.
Lord did back in Europe. So that was a big
Now I'm
thing
going to
here.
be my own type of lord. I'm going to take on
Yeah,
lordship here.
yeah, yeah. So those are the themes of my book. Kind of that's because you were saying,
Yeah.
before, what are the different things?
So one of the
Guns.
things critics have said about the book is it's emotionally and intellectually demanding, which I see as a compliment, actually. Do you think modern readers are being under-challenged by contemporary fiction these days?
I don't want to say that. I couldn't say that. I can't say that. They're underserved by contemporary fiction. Maybe my book, maybe it's a little too, abstruse. Maybe it's a little too demanding in some things. Yeah. So, but if you just read 10 pages and like it, that's all you have to read is 10 pages and see if you want to read more
If you read
kind
it
of
or
thing.
not. Yeah. It might be,
Yeah.
but that's sometimes where your level of thought is upgraded. I feel like if you're only reading books that remind you of what you already know and what you've already experienced, then what is the point of reading that book? Like, I guess you can have a few of those, but then you might as well just get a blanket and curl up and get a nice fluffy blanket. I think that when you read, it's to help you grow and learn about something you didn't know of before. At least learn. It doesn't have to change you. It just has to give you another level of awareness that you didn't have, right? So I feel like if that's what's happening, that's more reason to read it, you know? If you can't understand how someone used transgender just from a creative perspective, I was enthused by the fact that you used that as an overarching theme in the book to talk about capitalism and all that. It's like, whoa, what is it? That's why I call
There is
it a
some,
masterpiece
there's
because
some
you can
humor
do
too.
that.
I try to be humorous. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah,
try to be humorous too about it. I know it's,
yeah,
try to be
yeah,
humorous about the transgender issue and see some humor in it too.
yeah.
And yeah, and it's related to capitalism and all the things because capitalism is the reason we have this whole problem of illegal immigration. That's not politically correct anymore. I know that, but I don't know what else the hell to call it. It's illegal immigration is really caused by the history that we've had of capitalism, just going to these countries and changing the societies so much that people are displaced from their land. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to
Right.
go, these the people.
So,
And
speaking of immigration, I want to ask you this. How did your global upbringing and background in international finance shape how you wrote about borders, belonging, and exclusion?
yeah, that's one of the themes of my book, the borders. And so yeah, well, I did international finance because it was international more than anything. Just because of the international part. It could have been international clothing sales or international computer sales. It just happened to be international finance, and because of my language skills that I had. And but really, most of the ideas that I've seen that come from business and stuff have been just very self-serving
Hmm.
for anybody involved. Business can be self-serving, or it can be more, I don't want to say generous, but it can be more socially inspired. Those are, different models. I found that finance was not very socially inspired. That's
Hmm.
all.
Yeah. America is still capable of myth making? Or would you say that we are trapped in a revision without reflection?
Wow. Myth making. Well, that's what I tried to make my book myth like an epic, like a sort of, because part of myths involve journeys, and so
Hmm.
each character has the journey, which in many cases corresponds with the immigration journey. Whether you came as a slave, that was your immigration journey, or whether and that was forced. So the only people who came here that didn't want to be here were black people, because they were kidnapped from Africa. So everybody else came of their own volition. So right away you have a big difference between one
Hmm.
class of people and another. Forget even whatever the color situation, but they just didn't want to be here, and then they were here. But
Hmm.
everybody else came that they wanted to, and some were welcome and some were not. And we
Hmm.
started not welcoming I think we started not welcoming foreigners with the Chinese
Mm.
in the 1840s, the gold rush,
Yeah.
and so up until then, anybody could come. And then that's when these laws started, the 1830s, and then the 1920s, that you had some really anti-immigration laws that came in. But these problems, the immigration problem is a problem of the creation of the elites. I mean, the elites create these problems, and then they complain about them when they're brought back. This is all just, companies and rich people and economic forces that displace other people, and then the people have nowhere to go. It's as simple as that. Yeah. That's why we have. So the immigration, we should just let everybody stay. That's what I think. Why everybody
Mm.
who's here, my idea is, if you set foot in this country, you should be able to stay. And that's it.
Hmm.
Even your big toe, if you just stick your big toe on the land here, you should be able to stay.
I mean,
Other
it's
than that,
not, we don't
yeah,
own these things and we don't take them anywhere with us when we go back to where we came from. It's like this is all
no.
just space, and there's more than enough land in the USA to fit how many
Even
millions of people comfortable.
You know what? That, of course, I was almost going to say land. Oh, we have enough land, but we shouldn't even have to say that, because it's just like these people. So yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous that it's become such a big deal, because it never used to be, you know.
It
But then
didn't.
again,
As a matter
okay,
of
so
fact, that's the
I've
only
really,
reason why we are a country and we've been able to be one of the greatest, or used to be one of the greatest countries in the world. It's only because we were able to, quote unquote, I would say, use human capital to build our capitalist society very skillfully.
yeah. No, I mean, I know that your show really supports entrepreneurship, and I have nothing but positive things about entrepreneurship because I'm an entrepreneur, as I was saying. It's just that right, the way things have been turning, it's just been scary. That's all lately,
So one of
so
my friends, one of my colleagues recently, we were talking about capitalism a little bit, and we've had a few episodes so far that's addressed it. There's a couple coming up as well. One of the things that he said, because I guess I've been accused along my professional journey and some parts of my personal life of having a more socialist mindset. Well, I'm like, no surprise there. I was raised in a more socialist environment that pretends to be democratic.
really,
I'm from South America. I'm from Guyana, South
okay,
America.
okay,
We
okay.
have public health insurance. Everybody has access to Medicare. You can apply for a plot of land and get um, the government to approve that for very next to nothing, and you can build your own home. You don't have to go through all the banks and all these private lenders only to build your house. That's an option now, but you still have the option of going through with the government and claiming a piece of land and them giving you land. So you have an access to making a home, and you can work, and little by little you can build a home, and in its unfinished form you can live there, and then when it's finished here everything is just. So what my friend said, Audrey, was the true nature of capitalism in its purest form is a workable concept. However, in the USA, we have progressed to what he called crony capitalism. He had me
Yeah,
laughing.
right,
I was
right.
like, you
Yeah.
know what? I've never heard that, but it makes sense. And so, I've had, if when you have time, you can listen. I had Dr. Rachel Yarway, another Yale graduate too, who talks about the Black people or African descendants living in America navigating and working with capitalism, because while pushing against it, it's here. We can't run from it. But if
Oh,
we
it's
learn
here.
how to
Exactly.
work from it, it's not going anywhere. We have to
Oh
learn to
yeah.
work with it. But what are your comments on my colleagues' terminology of crony capitalism versus
Yeah.
capitalism in its purest form?
Well, we definitely have crony capitalism right now with Donald Trump. I mean, he's just it's just an administration for his buddies, and that's it. So,
I mean,
but I don't
I
really
can't
I
help but
can't.
agree with you because
It's just
what else
ridiculous.
have we
So
proven? That's it. I
yeah.
feel like all politicians do stuff for their buddies and to whoever, but I've never seen any government. And I mean, on the continent of Africa and in the Caribbean, South America, there's a lot of government corruption where they obviously pocket money for themselves and propel the likeness of their buddies, so to speak, and their buddies become richer. But I've never seen any government that particularly stand by it and just do it out loud in your face. Here you go, boom, like this one that we have.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
and I
point you
don't
made
care if
because
anyone doesn't like me saying it. They all do it. It's just that this is the most blatant way I've ever seen it done.
I totally agree with what you said because actually in Latin America they have a little more finesse even I think
Right.
than
They
what
at
we're
least
showing here. It's more discreet maybe even. I mean, what we
yeah.
have here is like totally upfront. Just it seems like thievery, but whatever. I've become more of a anarchist lately, like this pacifist anarchist, which is like a tradition of just wanting I
A
want a
whole
different
different thing.
structure, but
Yes.
I don't want violence for it, and that's one of the things in
Right.
my book that I
I
don't
get
like. I
that.
don't go the violent route for whatever happens, and so the violence is getting more in our society now. So that's really a
Mhm.
problem. But really, the problem with the structure of what we have is that, as you said, we can't get rid of capitalism. It's here. We can only modify it, and that's what we've been doing in the last 100 years is modifying
Mhm.
capitalism. Sometimes it's more humane, but if it's too humane, like you were saying about Guyana, where you can get a house and you get help from the government, then it's labeled socialism. So that in America, that's a bad word, socialism. Never.
Exactly. It's a
Socialists never
bad word. Yeah.
win anything. Yeah, it's really a bad word here, especially and now with this administration.
I
So
just think that
socialism.
without
So
labeling anything, can we just do things that serves people and maintain the integrity of a human experience? That's it. Like how would, like, for me, I guess, I don't know what you would call me, but I'm good on just like, can we just throw out socialism and capitalism altogether and figure out something that serves humans well? But as you said, there would be no justice. There will never be. There'll
No.
all be
Well,
justices and
that's the thing.
injustice.
See, that's where your friend, maybe with all respect, that he's wrong, that there is no, there's really no accommodation for capitalism because capitalism is an unjust system to begin with. You have to just accept it. It's unjust. It takes from the worker more than it pays
Yeah,
back from to the
no
worker.
matter what.
That's what Karl Marx analyzed in Das Kapital. The thing that really pisses the people, the capitalists off is they can't explain where profit comes from. Like the worker has his input, then you have all the supplies and all the crap that goes in, and somehow there's this profit, and the profit is what the capitalist takes and puts in his private bank account. But how did that happen? And Marx said it was because it was this thing called surplus labor capital, that the worker puts something of his soul, of his being into that product, and all of a sudden it was worth more money, but the
But then
capitalist took most of the money.
they only get a
And
sprinkle
the
of
worker
it.
only got enough for the subsistence. So really that analysis, which I think he wrote it like 1840 or something, that's
Hmm.
still, and people hate it. Like people who are conservative, they can't stand the idea that Karl Marx might have had a good idea, but he really did. I mean,
So I
he
feel
really
like
analyzed.
what
He was a historian.
there's right. I feel like what many people call as a solution to capitalism can be, in my layman's term, what I say, don't hate the player, hate the game. And then after you've done that, now go ahead and be like them so that you don't get caught being the worker in the capitalist game. And
That's
so I,
that's the only solution for you
right,
to become yourself an
a-
owner and to become
an
yourself
owner.
rich.
Right.
Yeah.
Because and so my struggle, I would say with you to you, and I'm gonna say on the podcast, as an entrepreneur myself, people struggle to accept that I'm an entrepreneur because I don't move in a capitalist mind frame.
Huh? Yep.
Meaning
Yep.
that
I see that.
people who work for me, they actually don't work for me, they work with me and alongside me.
Right.
So my people who are employed by Alisa Whyte Fulfillment Empowerment Network are partners in what I do, meaning that as our profit margin expands, their expands as well. But they also can, and they're given tools to literally leap and go on and expand and get workers of their own. So people say, so how are you making money? I said, I am making money. Well, how are you ever gonna? So I guess their concern is that you will never become a multimillionaire. And when I
Hmm.
look at it, my practice and my business practices it's not feasible to become that in this capitalist society.
Right.
Because if I am
Right.
going to be just and fair to people who work with me, in my opinion, more a true capitalist would say work for me, then I would be comfortable giving them $7 an hour from now for as long as I can give them $7 an hour. Whether my profit margin is at 100,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, they still make $7. And if they are not happy with it, they can leave and I'll get another person. So what I
Wow.
spend on paying them for work, that for me is capitalism.
Right.
Is paying
Right.
people, not even pennies on the dollar, but crap on the dollar, and I walk off with the majority of it. And that's it. I don't care what happens to them. You show up here, you show up on time, you do as you're told, and then you leave and you come back and you do the same darn thing tomorrow. That for me is what capitalism is that there's a richer getting richer and the poor stays right where they're at. There's
Yeah.
no,
Right.
and so we do, and then there's when you talk about the different sides, there's the other group who says, oh, yeah, but we have to equate. We have to make sure everybody has equal access. And that's the conversation that brings the argument between left, right, and whatever hell they call themselves.
Right.
Because Dr. Alisa Whyte I don't believe for any of them. But again, I have the question, why can't we all just live in dignity with our needs being met? And that is why they
Hmm.
call me a socialist, because they have to put me in a box, right?
Well, because the needs, the quote of the needs, that's the Karl Marx quote. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. That's the Karl Marx quote. You see, when the minute you mention needs, you're going to be labeled a socialist just from a superficial point of view. But wait, you had a young lady on one of your podcasts, and she was like she invented this program, and she was all alone. She invented this like an app or something, right? Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yes,
And she said
Sierra
that she had her
Azam
own
from
company.
Canada.
Yeah,
Yes.
she had her own company, but she didn't want to make so much. Like she knew that it was a it would be a bad business for her if she made so much money and no one else made any money. Then she didn't want that business, nor did she want the business where everybody else made all the money and she didn't make any. She was looking for some sort of balance. And when I first heard her, I thought, that sounds crazy. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm thinking, well, you were agreeing with her because of
Yes.
your
My values.
I want to say, not your kindness, because it's not a question of kindness, it's a question of fairness. You're agreeing with her the truth that if you're going to do a business, it has to have more than just the money part. It has to have the dignity that you said a few minutes ago, plus
Yes.
some activity that you have that benefit, that helps people. I don't know,
Yes.
maybe not.
Yes. You're saying it right. That's my value, and I'm comfortable with it, and I will live my life and do the best I can with that value.
But that doesn't make you a
change.
socialist. People would say, "Oh, that's socialistic, maybe," but not really. If you want to get people to be loyal to you, you have to pay them well. I mean, it seems to me that, but that's,
I believe that's where my
idea.
success is. But that's, again, since that's what I believe, when I do it and I stay true to it, I will continue to win. But if I believe that I have to take from everybody, and if I let them have too much, then I'm going to lose. Then because I believe that becomes a reality. It's like, it says, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. That's a beliefs. That's what belief is, because I believe we create from our thoughts and our thinking and our being, right? So I was in complete alignment with Sierra on that, because that's my value. And so, again, someone might just want to be the greatest, have the largest profit margin, and that's their goal for having a business, and make money and make money and work till they die. I want to literally be financially independent to the point where I can live where I want, work with who I want, work when I want. I want my freedoms. And so that number is very different. If someone can experience the paycheck I make now, the money I have, income I have now, in 1960, someone would be like a millionaire, living the life of a millionaire back then. Right? And right now, that's borderline, that's not even middle class. That's almost to low class at times, in my opinion, right? Because you're just one decision or one injury away from, or 6 months away from, being broke and without anything. So that's risky living.
You said before, I mean, in one of your in your presentation video, you said that you're not monetizing your business. You don't want to monetize it.
No, I do. I do monetize my business. I am monetizing.
No, but not in a grotesque way. You're monetizing it like it had to do with the fee or whatever, and it's like, but it's like the monetizing. I don't, it's, that doesn't seem like that's what turns you on. What turns you on is talking to people and talking with 8 people in a week or something. I don't know. It's just. And if the money comes, the money comes.
Right. Because at the end of the day, I don't bring the money with me. And the money doesn't make me freer. It doesn't help me. Right. It facilitates me getting the freedom to do those things, because I am living in a capitalist society, right?
No, money is freedom. But where does the freedom go into grotesqueness of the money?
It's a vehicle that helps you buy back your freedom.
Money is freedom. Money is a big deal for freedom. No, money is a big deal for freedom.
Period.
But when does the amount of money become like ridiculous? So, so you have these billionaires now, plutocrats. And
they don't rest. They don't sleep. They're not.
We always had guys like there's always been a Rockefeller and more than just one. So this is that's an American thing. That's like, that doesn't happen in other countries, of this accumulation of wealth like this. It's just
weird.
And
it's not necessary to be comfortable. It's not even necessary. Look, I know of tribes in Africa where the king and the queen is dirt poor, just like everybody in the village, but they still have rulership over them.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But
them being a king and a queen or a chief has nothing to do with their financial standing. It has with their ability to, because number one, of their DNA and their lineage, number one, because they're the son of a chief and whatever. Now they call themselves kings and queens.
Right.
But it's their now ability to lead the people because of who they were who they were birthed from. Also, their ability to lead and guide the people in their village. It's not about
Right.
money. And they are
Yeah.
served, they are bowed
Yeah.
down to, they are catered to
Right.
at that level.
But I'm just picking up on your theme of yourself about this socialism thing that you've been accused of or whatever, or associated with. And you had another podcast with this other lady, this girl, and oh yeah, she was a life counselor,
Mhm.
She had been like in the Miss Universe pageant. Remember,
Oh,
you know what I'm
yes.
talking about?
She,
And you talked a
boy.
lot with her about the same stuff, about how you talked a lot about that you didn't want to just have a business that was just not fulfilling for you. You were looking for
Exactly.
other parts of the business. I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I don't believe, it is my belief, and this might be a generalization. You're talking about my episode with, because I just have
Is she
to.
Canadian too?
Yes, she was Canadian. It
Yeah.
was Miss Zarina Dirvani. She was a Miss
Yeah.
Universe pageant. Yes, Zarina Dirvani. She's
Yes.
Canadian too.
Yeah.
The thing about it, I believe that the soul, every human soul, seeks peace and freedom.
That's
Those
like
are
the
the two.
Plato quote.
Pretty much,
That's like
right?
the Plato quote,
I
right?
think we
That's
say
right.
we all want to be
Yeah.
successful, we all want to be loved, we want to da, 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 all these wonderful words, but I think the most accurate thing is peace. And in my opinion, abundance of peace. What does peace mean? It doesn't mean that you don't get into a war. It just means that no matter where you are and when you are and who you are with, you feel safe in your own body.
Yeah.
That's it. And so for me, the quest is always, how can I be in a situation or circumstance where I'm at peace with my existence? Why do you want to get out of a marriage? Because your existence is in conflict the whole time when you're with this person now. Why don't you want to be at this job? Your existence isn't, you get on nerve, you get dysregulated when you go to this job because you don't like your boss and all the reasons you find, or you don't make enough money, you're dysregulated. So you're seeking, for me, is peace.
So you've structured your life now differently than before, right? With all these, with your ideas of fulfilling your needs for independence and things like that now,
Yes, I keep
right?
restructuring it. And I think the biggest battle of my life, Tawdry, has been letting go of those old ways of being and doing, or those visions that to me creates the conquest of, for example, you shared, we know that you live in a manse with your wife. It's what, a
1700s, yeah.
1700s residence. And for a lot of people, they'll be like, well, are you going to upgrade it? What did you do to make it,
Yeah.
because they have an idea of a white picket fence. And sometimes a white picket fence is not a white picket fence, but they have an idea. And I have nothing to say that someone shouldn't pursue that if that's what brings you peace. But if you're
Right.
constantly on a fight and a struggle and an argue and a just being nasty to get something, then you're missing out on the half of it, because it's really the process to getting whatever it is you say you want. That's going to be
Right.
that's going to be what your life is at the end of your life. It's always the
Right.
journey. So if you're aware of that, then what do you do? So for me, I grew up with an ideal that I was told that you get married, you have kids, you have a great job and all of that. I was born in 1980, so I was more encouraged and uplifted as an intelligent young woman to have that modern life where you grew up, you have a husband, you have kids, you have a beautiful home, you have a successful career or business. My family did include the business part for me, and that was it. So it's the home, the picket fences, the nice cars. And I remember as a young woman, I was like, well, I don't know if I want to get married. I don't know if I want to have kids, because I don't see
Right.
anyone who's any woman who's married with kids having a career and making a difference in the world. That wasn't
Right.
present to me at the time. These women were on
Yes.
TV in the form of Oprah and all of that, but they weren't in my community as much.
Uh-huh.
So for me,
Right.
it meant I couldn't have both. And I was like, I feel there's more fulfillment in me having a career and doing something in the world and making a lot of money and being able to give back and solve problems in the world in my community. So I'd rather forego having a husband and kids so I can focus on doing that, because that felt at that time at 16, 17, that would be what's most fulfilling to me. Guess what? I started dating and decided to get married anyway at age 22. And where did I end up at age 34? Not married, no kids, and I'm not going to have any kids, right? Back to, building and solving issues for people. Now, I need a lot of money to do that, so don't underestimate me. But the way I go about it is very different from most people.
Yes. Yes.
So that
Yes.
if my life ends tomorrow, or for some reason life has it that my life slows down, I will not have regrets. For example, many of us has plans to make $1 billion right now by the time we're 40. And so we forego going out, having fun, socializing, doing healing work and all that. We're just like, I'll do this when I make this $1 million. So everything is focused on the $1 million. But what happens, you end up getting sick. Maybe you end up with cancer. Now you can't keep working on getting $1 million, but your body is never going to recover so you can make $1 million. But you wanted to make $1 million before you help people from being hungry. You wanted to make $1 million before you start helping people have better educational systems. My thing is, it's always now. So if that's my vision, I should be able to contribute to the education systems right now. I should be able to contribute to people healing right now, even when I don't have money.
Right.
I shouldn't have to have $1 million to be able to do that. This is where my podcast is born, because I decided that I was going to use whatever resources I had to put the message that was in me to the world. So my podcast started as only me on the podcast. That was always meant to be. It was never meant to have any guests, because who wants to talk to me? I don't know enough people and I don't have time. I got to go to work anyway.
Oh, really?
I didn't have enough time to sit there and talk to people.
So you didn't have to think of having guests in the beginning?
No, I didn't want to. It's too much work. I only wanted to send my message because I realized I am waiting for when I leave corporate America so I can build training rooms and travel and speak to people so the world can hear my message. I was thinking that I had to wait, but I realized in life, Awdry, that you get injured, you suffer illnesses, and you never live doing what it is that you feel most passionate about doing, which is have a message. Look, you have this book. It took you 10 years, but you had to stay consistent over 10 years to bring this book to life. That's how long it takes. You couldn't wait and say, I want my book to come out in 2024 and now start working on it in 2024. So I have a global message of transformation that I want the world to hear, which is, as a man thinketh, so is he. If you think how you think, it's going to reflect on how you are. If you allow yourself to heal from the things that hurt you as a child, whether you know it or know it not, then you allow yourself to discover why you want to hear, what you're most passionate about. Then you reframe limiting beliefs that stop you from doing that, create a roadmap, and create abundance. So with that being my manifesto, I was like, I got to do this, and I can't wait until I'm a millionaire to do this. I'm going to do this now. I have a microphone. There's this thing called podcast. Okay, what do I do? And I did it. I did it on my own, Awdry. And that's the message I preach, because if my life is so filled that if I were to die tomorrow, I would, or if I was on my dying bed tomorrow, I'd be happy that I'm living my life the way I am.
Let me just make a comment about what you just said. You said it twice now. You said, if I died, I'd be happy, because you're undertaking your life to your employees now in a way that's decent and that you can live with yourself. And maybe it's a little socialistic, possibly. But the model of philanthropy has been usually that people live atrocious lives of abusing their employees to make their $1 million. And then at the end of their life, they feel bad about it. And they say, okay, I'm going to give for a library, and that's going to make up for all the bad stuff that I did.
Yes.
And then, and I did so much bad stuff, and then I'm going to give this, and that's going to wash away my sins. But you've decided not to do that. You decided to not have those sins that you're going to carry on. You're going to treat people more fairly, maybe make a little less money. That was the point I thought of your other stuff that you were saying. So
You're
that's what I just wanted to
exactly
comment
right.
on that. That's what I was writing a note on. The other thing is, so you want to help people now instead of like in the future based on
Yes.
some philanthropy. So you want to help them now. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other thing you said in the beginning, you said about how you were this woman who was very like when you were a kid you didn't want to get married. So you part of that was just rebellion, but part of that was more like a philosophical decision that you had made, which corresponded to that time. And I want to say that you could be one of the characters in my book because one of the characters, I mean, of the women's lib situation, you know, how it influenced people that you don't want to have kids, that you want to have more of a corporate life or an independent, like your own. You want to be in charge of your destiny more, and so those are
And that was
feminist
rebellion
ideas,
in 1990.
right?
That's 1996. That was
So in a
rebellion.
sense, you're sort of like one of the characters in my book, an extreme
Yes.
sort of person that wanted to do something, and here you are on your podcast, and you're more like an artist too, like that.
I
That's why
am.
money
Yeah. And
maybe is not
that
your
was what I
first,
was making.
yeah.
I
Anyway, that's
believe
all.
that I will create massive abundance and lots of money off of just doing what it is that I
Right?
was put on the earth to do. There's no,
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't have any questions about it. I'm not making money off the podcast. A lot of people talk about making money off the podcast, but I believe the podcast is because I'm consistently showing up for it. There are opportunities that will arise for me to
You never
make a
know.
lot of money. And that's
Exactly.
my belief.
And it's your thing. It's your
Yeah.
thing too. This is it's really beautiful. I mean, it's a really great idea you have. So,
Thank you.
and you interview very diverse people and a lot of because to try to prepare for this, there is no preparation because each episode goes its own way. I realize, but I tried to see, I tried to see your podcast to see what kind of questions you asked, yeah, and your themes. You do have this theme of being fair in work, and I say socialist, but yeah,
You see,
and that's good though.
I don't mind. I think one thing about life is we get hung up on what people might call us or allude to their experience of us. I don't think it's a reflection of me if someone thinks that I'm capitalist, socialist, a mean person. I think it's of me when they experience me. And it's also through the lens of their experience more than anything and who they are and
Right.
where they are. And so when you have become a person who allows for people to be comfortably expressive of their experience of you without attaching yourself to it, I think that's a place of mastery. So if
Hmm.
someone thinks that I'm socialist, it's because they've experienced a lot of my socialist ideals that I might have. And that's their
Hmm.
perspective that when someone that that equals this, that's their math. I am not here to tell them how to do calculations in their life. And so
Right.
just because their calculation is not in alignment with me, it doesn't mean they're no good to be around me or in my presence. It's what makes the world. It's the fact that the world is just like that, is that you are married to Mrs. Winks and you guys don't even like your soup the same. That you're a
Yeah.
writer and she's an artist that paints and draws. You're not the same. You would not probably drawing or painting might be the thing that drives you up a wall if someone made you have to paint, and she cannot think of a day sitting there to write a chapter in a book, but you still work in unison. And here, for example, right here, here's her art and you're writing.
Thank you.
This is what makes the world complete for me, is the fact that we are different, but we still are co-creating.
Like that.
And if we can understand that, then being capitalist, socialist, or any of the things, trans, gay, straight, like you said, it shouldn't matter as much as we make it matter.
What you just said is the outcome of my book. That they're all different people, and they in the end they combine and they do something together, and it works out and whatever. It's just I think that the money part changes the whole perspective of the argument. That it's your activities shouldn't have to be talked about in relation to money. Your activities are beyond money, and whatever you do, as long as you can keep your operation going,
and keep
That's right. I
growing
didn't write my
and
books for
make your
money,
impact
so
bigger and your influence
yeah,
greater.
maybe you will. You probably will.
You
So
do,
yeah,
because I'm telling you,
yeah.
I just told you I got divorced at age 34. I went from a 2-income household, our 4-bedroom home, to a 2-bedroom home apartment in Florida, and working 2 jobs, one federal job and one
Oh
working at a
wow,
call center to make my income work
really?
9 years
Oh
ago.
boy.
And when I built this business I invested $10,000 of my own money to start my business
Oh
5
wow.
years ago, and 60% of it was on training and certification. The other 4,000 was hardware and software. And
Really?
I'm still a
Wow.
single woman that does all that I do. There's no man here with me. And I'm not saying that to demise and compromise to have the man. Listen, having a male
Right.
in your life, the masculine and the female working together, is the ideal space. But I
Yeah.
also believe that men and women should not use each other as things and tools to gain profit. That's where you're not going to ever make it. I feel like that's why people go through marriage and divorce all the time and they lose millions, because they're just attaching themselves to the person who would help them build faster. I think that a man and a woman together is the perfect ideal thing. Male and female, male, feminine and masculine. I call it the blue zone and the pink zone, and it comes the red zone and it becomes the purple zone, because that's the color mixing. Anyway, that's my story. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about the husband and wife and the unit. I think that's the one way to survive capitalism. But it shouldn't be the
Right.
reason you get married or be in a relationship is survive capitalism. So for me, I have not met my significant other in the last 9 years. I've not met someone who we decide to take on that journey together. So I do it alone.
Right.
And I'm still building at rapid speeds and impacting and influencing and leaving a legacy that will outlive me without millions of dollars, without thousands even sometimes.
Right.
And I don't fight the capitalists. I don't fight the socialists. I don't fight the Democrats. I don't fight the Republicans. I don't have to fight with any of them.
No, because you
I
have to get
work
along
with
with
all
everybody.
of them.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learn from
That's being a
all
pro.
of them.
That's being a pro.
They each add to my
Yeah.
life. And so my
Yeah.
job is to add to their life in the way that I do. Like, biggest thing is contribution. It's a human need. We all want to contribute. That's why you wrote this book. You wanted to
Right.
contribute to the thought of how the world sees the subject, the themes that you address in this book. You wanted to contribute this, and this will live long after you do.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. That's important. Yeah. That's
This
big.
will be
Yeah.
remembered when how much you had in your bank account on today is
No,
remembered.
exactly. I hope so. I hope so.
And so
I hope
that
so.
is,
Just a quick aside on what you were saying about, man and woman, and it's sort of become a cliche that this and the trans thing was sort of against the man and woman thing because I'm going to be trans. But the joke of my book is that when each character assumes the new identity to the opposite of what they were, they still come together as man and woman, even though they're the opposite of what they were, but they still have to have the pair bonding of the man and woman, and that's
that is,
sort of a joke, but it's true, and they stay together that way.
this is what I loved about it too. Yeah.
Maybe that's like a traditional view of the family, but it's sort of a fact, male female bonding, whatever. And
It's
even in the
way more
trans
than a
state,
tradition.
still have-
It's a human
yeah.
need. Like you said,
Yeah.
if I want to become a man, I changed all the things, maybe even my body parts, but then I still go with a woman. Or if I just identify as a stud, I still want to go with a woman.
It's the characters that when they change sex, they stay heterosexual. They don't stay like the man who becomes a woman still likes a woman. So they don't, those things they can't change. That was the thing they couldn't change. That God, it's a part of heterosexuality that they still were attracted to the other original sex, whatever.
Sex,
So,
exactly. And so
the
that alone
mysteries
tells
of
you,
what we're dealing with.
because there is a need for the masculine and the feminine to be in unison.
Right. Yeah. In that way. Yeah.
It's needed for survival. And so one of my colleagues and I were talking about, even when you're not in a romantic relationship, you seek to have that masculine contribution to your life through friendships, who you
Right.
work with, and all of those things. And it's
Right.
necessary in order for you to function in your wholeness of who you are, because you have both masculine and feminine, and both sides of you need nurturing and empowering, and what I would say igniting, probably more than anything, for you to be winning in your own life. So yeah, I don't want people to walk away with that. I don't think that people should have money, and I think some people should have more money than some, because some people wouldn't know what to do with it even if you gave it to them.
Right.
I do believe
Right.
that.
Right.
But whether I'm capitalist or socialist, I don't think I know I don't subscribe to any of those. I just make my
Right.
own path.
Right. So
Yeah.
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 All right.
So this
Well,
book dives into so
thank
many
you so
things,
much for
and
reading my book. I'm really impressed that you've even if you read 20
I
pages,
just
I'm really
read some
impressed.
of it. I've read some of it. I went by the chapter. The wonderful thing about it
Yeah.
is that you have you can decide what you want to read
Yeah,
if you're just doing an
you can
overview
actually
by
read the
going
book.
through yes.
You don't have to read the book sequentially. You can read one chapter here and another one another
Exactly.
day
It has sort of a life of
backwards.
its
Yeah.
own. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
love
yeah, yeah,
about it.
yeah. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So let's do flip the script. This is where we will talk about that moment in your life and your personal and professional where you had to radically rethink who you were and how you saw the world. What was the mindset shift? How did it change your creative or moral compass?
Okay, so I actually prepared for this because I remembered you asked flip the script, and I thought that's what it meant. So
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna quote Dr. Wayne Dyer,
I
who
love that.
says, "Don't die with your music still in you." Right? Do you know that quote?
There you go.
Don't die with your music still in you, meaning don't
Yes.
die if you still have something to do. And my wife is a big fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer, and she showed me this quote. And yeah, and so that was just the other day she showed me the quote, but really it seemed to embody what I had maybe gone through like 15 years ago, or that I had worked on Wall Street, and I just was not. That's why I can relate to your self-analysis of whether you're a socialist or not, or because yeah, there's something not fulfilling about that career for me. So, and I thought, well, maybe I'll try writing a book, because I'd always, been literature in college, and my whole life I've been a reader. That's the thing. I've just been a reader my entire life. So it's
Readers
not a
are
big. It
leaders.
wasn't hard for me to write the book. I want to tell you that this was not
Yeah.
hard to write. It was like easy. Yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
that's
I don't have writer's
awesome.
block. Like people who have writer's block, it's just because they're goofing around and stuff. They're just like, I don't know.
I
Just
agree.
don't
That's the
don't
one
write the
thing I
book.
have
I don't
never
know.
hit writer's block, and I write way more
No,
than I talk.
that's good.
Surprisingly, people would be
Well,
surprised.
yeah, because you're a good conversationalist too. So you have organized thoughts. So you're going to be a good writer. And
Yeah,
but yeah,
thank
I
you.
didn't have that. And
Yeah.
I really
I
wanted to
think
get the
I'm a
book
better
out.
writer than I am a speaker. I write way better, and I've written
Most
so
people are,
much.
I think. I think most people are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they are.
So now I have to ask you a big question. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What does success mean to you now in this time of your life?
Okay, so I prepared for this question because I remember you asked for it. Yeah, I did. So at one point, this is like a quote of this is how you define success. It's how many people I can impact and influence. That's how you define success. That's how I heard you say it.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
like that. So I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say
Wow.
it's how many people I can impact and influence, but I rephrase it to say I can connect with. So
Yes.
because as a writer, I don't care really if I impact or influence them that much.
You
I
want to
more care that
connect.
they just if they read 10 pages, that would make me happy. 10 pages of my book to connect,
Right.
because then we have a connection. And whether I
Yes.
influence them in life or not, I don't think I'm going to really influence them. But anyway,
Oh, you
but I
do.
took that from you.
Words.
Maybe. So that's the first part, is how many people, what is success? It's how many people I can connect with through my work. And then money was not an object in my book. I wrote it for myself first, to put order to an idea that I had. And then the last thing is, I guess this is what you were saying too about my book. If I can contribute anything to the way those in the future see us, that would be success. You were saying if my book outlasts me, if my book, people care more about my book than my bank account, that would be success. That they would look upon that book as something that of the way I saw the world and connected with them. So that
You
would be
saw
success to me.
value in it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so profound. I love
You
that.
can tell I like
I
mus-
love that.
you can tell I like museums too, because that's all museums are. Going to see things that, you know,
It makes you
leave
think.
you with something important. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something long
Yeah.
lasting, something that's there after everybody's dead, it's still there. So
It's still
yeah,
there. Absolutely. And no
yeah,
matter how much the world has fast forward into technology, I believe a book will always, I mean, books, we're still reading books from thousands of years ago. We're still
right,
quoting, work
right,
because that lives on. I don't know who Plato is, but I still read Plato. We still quote
right,
Plato. So love
right.
it.
No
Yeah.
one cares about King Midas. No one cares about King Midas, or who Croesus was another rich guy, or our billionaires that we have nowadays. No,
And the
no.
only
In the end,
reason we know
no
it's
one cares
because
about
we
the
read
money.
history about it for whatever they
Yeah,
did. But nobody is in a backwoods in India or in Africa reading something from some rich guy. I hate to say it,
no,
but nobody's reading anything from Prince Harry or his dad until they
yeah,
write something that gives us something to think about. The gossip columns are doing it, but people who don't have access to media are not reading material from those people. Even though
right,
they're
right.
influential right now, they're not necessarily,
Well,
you
who
know what I'm
knows? Who
saying?
knows who will?
They
Maybe
still
Elon
have
Musk
to,
will be remembered. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk will be remembered more than anyone. So I don't know. Maybe.
well, because he's been creating. You know what I'm saying? He's not just a popular guy. He's gotten famous for creating. He's gotten rich for creating.
Right.
So he will be
Yeah.
remembered throughout history, of course.
Yeah.
And
Probably he
again,
will.
not for
Yeah.
how much money he made, for what he
Maybe for his
did with the
ideas.
money. Yes, his ideas.
Right.
And so
Hopefully
we're
for his
all
good. Hopefully for his good ideas. That's all. For his good ideas,
by
not the other
God's
ones.
grace,
That's all.
please, because his
Yeah.
bad ideas is not going to be helpful to humanity.
No.
But
No.
we will still remember them, even if they're not good.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about
Yeah. Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
mindset bites to go, Tawdry, for our listeners who may feel overwhelmed by identity conversations, culture wars, even social fragmentation. What's one truth you want them to sit with after reading your book? I'm going to step away from the camera and the microphone, and it's
Oh
all
no, that's
you.
crazy. Come on. What's the one idea that I want them to have from my book?
Yeah, what's the one truth you
Okay.
want them to sit with after reading your book?
Okay. That the one truth really that I would think is how alike we all are as human beings. And all these divisions that we have created by governments and borders and actually, fences on your yard. Although Robert Frost did say good fences make good neighbors, but still the divisions that we're seeing now are extreme. On the one hand, it's scary, but on the other hand, there was a French writer in 1880s who came, Alexis de Tocqueville, and he did a critique of American democracy. And he saw, even in the 1880s, that our country was incredibly divided and people hated each other on different sides of the art. There was a lot of aggression of political parties and associations, a lot of that Americans loved associations and belonging to this and that. And so there's always been division, I guess. It's on the one hand, it's my book tries to understand those divisions and say that there are divisions, but the things that bind us together are more important. And if that's a Christian message, I don't know. That's Jesus Christ wanted to, show people love and mercy, and maybe that's a part of it. So, but yeah, I want my people to think of my book as, yeah, is it inclusive? Yes, of course. Am I proud that it's inclusive? Of course I am. And am I proud that I'm pretty woke? I'm beyond woke. I'm more woke than woke. Because the minute you read any history from ancient Greek, anything, Egyptian history, is the way people killed each other, and through history, the way Americans lately, but the way societies have just ravaged and killed one another. It's incredible. And yet, within all that, the high points of society have to be remembered, and man will persevere. So that's basically it. That will persevere in the end. Thank you.
I love it. I believe that you said such phenomenal things, and I am just my favorite part is when you said, "Am I woke? I'm woker than woke." That is going to be a mic drop. I feel like that should be a viral clip. I can't
Oh,
wait
yeah.
to see it because you said I'm woke. And I believe, like I said, I feel like the word woke is exaggerated. Feel like
Yeah.
if
We haven't
you're a
talked about that.
reader and you're a researcher, you're someone who's digging for more truth about your existence, you're going to wake up. You're going to become aware. You're going to push against the grain of what society has been conditioning us to be. And I want to say, and Tawdry, you can comment on this, that you don't have to start a war. You don't have to bash anyone. When you learn, or when you quote unquote wake up to knowledge of your existence, you don't have to get in a fight. You just have to teach when you learn. I believe in the words of, gosh, a beautiful, I don't remember her name, but it's right there. But in her words, she says, when you learn, you teach. Maya Angelou. When you learn, you teach. And for those who may be interested, they will apply and come to your classes. And so when you write a book, when you get a podcast, when you grab a microphone, or you just sit and have conversations, you are teaching what you learn. So if you are woke and you're woker than woke, take what he said to you as a catalyst to go ahead and share that transformation with someone else. Share this episode with someone else. I believe it's going to be an amazing episode, Tawdry. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Whyte. It was really fun. I have to admit, this is great.
I know. I'm pretty sure you weren't ready for this conversation. You weren't. You never know. I never know where it's going to go.
Somewhere along the line, it took a huge digression, and then once it digressed, it just went everywhere.
And I love that, and I know that we don't do a whole lot of editing, but there will be enough of all the good things. Sometimes our conversations go, and I get into sharing, and it becomes more of you and I just on our conversation than it's a conversation for them listening to, so they just get to eavesdrop. It's just a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. At the Millennium, Paradise Cross is available.
My wife said, because I said to her, I'm a little nervous today. I don't know. I'm just feeling a little nervous to go on the show. And she goes, why don't you just pretend you're sitting at a lunch table having lunch with this person and just pretend you're just having a nice, easy, friendly time. So that's what it was like. It really was.
It was. And that's exactly how I show up for every episode. Wow. I guess all the thousands of people listening after the fact, it's wonderful, but it's just having just meaningful, rich conversation, and I call it communion with another soul in another place that I am only privileged to have. And so I can't prepare for that.
That's why you like that. That's why Plato quote, because it's really a cool quote about your soul. It is. About how your soul sees all these things that are beyond your understanding, even because they're so pure. But it's true that your soul, because otherwise, how do you know the difference between right and wrong? How do you know moralities is totally from that? So,
listeners, if you're looking to get a copy of Tawdry's book, it's called, again, At the Millennium, Paradise Crossed. It's available on Kindle, on Amazon.com, paperback as well, and hardcover. I have the beautiful hardcover. The links are in the description wherever you're listening or watching to this episode. This book has received multiple Midwest Book Review features, including Small Press, Book Watch, and Reviewers Book Watch, with academic and literary endorsements. So go ahead, grab a copy, and let Tawdry know that you've listened to him on Mindset Mastery Moments and you got a copy of his book. Tawdry, can you tell them the favorite way for them to get in contact with you?
Oh, wow. I guess my email.
Your email, yes.
My email is info@tawdrywinks.net.
Awesome. It will be right there in the chat, info@tawdrywinks.net. Let him know you heard him here, and let him know you read the book and how you connected with what he has shared with the world. Tawdry, again, thank you so much for being here, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of you in the future.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr. Whyte. Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Bye. Disruptors, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do become. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.